A watcher and a holy one came down out of heaven and said three words, cut it down. Not a rival king, not some jealous generals, not somebody in the palace that was plotting behind Nebuchadnezzar's back. Heaven itself. Now listen, that three got chopped down to a stump, and that stump got left out in a field to get wet with the dew of heaven while that man lived among the beasts 7 times. 7 full seasons. Today in Daniel 4, we watch a king go from the palace to the pasture. And I'm going to show you why God does that. Because pride doesn't make a man greater. Pride makes him less than the beast he's about to be living with. This is Paul Purifoy along with Uncle Royce. So let's get out to that field.
Join the ride with open hearts. Together we'll discover God's word and where it starts. Dive into the pages, lessons old and new. Every sip of wisdom brings light to the view.
Welcome back to Two Faithful Brews and the Good News. I'm Paul Purifoy, sitting here with Uncle Royce. And we have finally got to the verse this whole series has been walking toward. Daniel 4, verse 23. And this is the moment the watcher and the Holy One hand down the decree. Cut the tree down, destroy it, but leave the stump. Bind it with a band of iron and brass. Let it sit out there in the tender grass and get wet with the dew of heaven. And let that man's portion be with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. Now, if you've been with us the last few weeks, you know that how we got here. We walked through the dream. We've walked through Daniel's trouble, sitting there an hour before he could even speak. We walked through him looking the king dead in the eye and saying, "It is thou, O king." Well, today, the talking is over. Today, the decree falls. And Uncle Royce and I, we're going to take you out to the field with Nebuchadnezzar, because I promise you, this isn't just a history lesson about some king that lived 2,500 years ago. Folks, this is about pride and what it costs. This is about the flesh and how comfortable we've gotten in it. And it is about a church in America right now that has got every tool, every platform, every convenience, and still can't get out from under its own pride long enough to hear from God. So stick with us. This one's going to get uncomfortable before it gets good. All right, Daniel chapter 4, verse 23. And whereas the king saw a watcher and an holy one coming down from heaven and saying, hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his position be with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. So now we get to see where Daniel moves to the tree's greatness and to the tree's judgment here. So the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven. That means the judgment is not coming from Babylon, Uncle Royce. That's coming from heaven. So this is not something that's going to be political. Everything in life is physical and spiritual. This is the spiritual nature of what's occurring, and God's working in that area. He's working from that area, and he's going to move it into the physical realm. So, and that's the way we should live our lives as individuals, as the church. We should be living out of the spirit and allow it to come into the physical. That's how you change as a believer. That's how you change the nation. That's how you change the church. That's how things change when you work out of the Spirit of God. So there's no political decision that's in this. There's not a palace rumor. There's not a human court. This is a heaven moment. Heaven's addressing the throne of Babylon. And the watcher says, hew the tree down and destroy it. And that is a severe word. The visible greatness that is there is going to be cut down. The branches are going to be removed. The leaves are going to be shaken off. The fruit's going to be scattered. and everything that made the tree appear untouchable is going to be touched. So then we get to see where Daniel repeats the mercy, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth. And the tree's cut down, but yet the stump remains. And that has been one of the strongest truths that we've had in this chapter. That's why we spent so much time in this. So God's going to humble Nebuchadnezzar, but he's not finished with him. God's going to cut down pride, but he's not going to preserve the possibility of any restoration back to what there was. And God's going to strip away what has become very dangerous here, but he's not going to pull up the roots. There's judgment, but there's mercy. There's correction. There's a cutting down, but there's also hope and preservation that's here. And that's how God deals with pride when mercy still speaks. So now if we shift that to us today into the church, that's going to get real rough and real quick.
Going to move to the internal man now.
Again, I go back to that statement.
And to the bench of the church.
We can handle the truth until it becomes personal. We can read the scriptures until they actually affect us. When it starts affecting us, we stop reading. When prayer starts to actually deal with us, we stop praying.
But that's when we're supposed to really start to dig in. We're not supposed to quit. We're supposed to start pushing in.
Supposed to, absolutely. But
you like that word, suppose, huh?
Yeah, that's the difference between us living out of our physical, out of our flesh, versus living out of our spirit. The spirit man will cause us to push. The physical causes us to become weak. And this is why we have, and I'm as guilty as anybody, this is why we have people with addiction issues that can't overcome addictions, is because we are so stuck with our flesh and the temptations that it's reachable, it's accessible. And it's not just addiction, it's in every detail of every life. This is why we get so comfortable in our house. We love our air conditioning. Now we can't go outside, and most people can't withstand the heat. The physical gets overwhelmed and it causes us to break down. So we don't push forward.
If you wait for me to argue with that, I ain't going to argue with it.
Hey, I mean, it's real.
It is real.
If you talk to people on the phones anymore, when I'm at work and I have talked to people and we're trying to see if they're wanting to get a roof or something, I have people that call and say, hey, will y'all actually do the work? We can't get anybody to call us back. We can't get people to want to come out and do work. We can't get any of these things to happen. And it's not just where I work at. It's a lot of places are like that. The workforce is not there. Why? Because we have become a weak area in life.
Self-centered.
It's about me. It's about how I feel. It's about what I get. And hey, it's truth. I've had to learn a hard lesson in the last 10 years, probably last 10, 15 years, that I allowed myself to get so used to the things that I didn't push myself to work in areas and to work in life. And now I'm suffering on it physically. Spiritually, I learned to grow. But yet, even though you work in the spirit, it's more than just reading the scripture. It's more than prayer. You've also got to do some things physically, and it's more than just praying for people. It's more than just preaching a sermon. You got to prepare your body to be the temple as well. Woo!
That's rough.
That's where you're at here with this, is God saying you have done these things in the natural, but now you're not prepared spiritually, and you've got to prepare for the temple.
Okay. Before we go any further on this, I want to back up, move into this spiritual and this physical a little bit more and bring God into it. Because when we move from Daniel now, Daniel's done his part and moved it in, and he's put King Nebuchadnezzar in a place. You notice the king's the one that put this thing front and forward before, and he got into a place because he was troubled. He was all the physical things, the emotional things, the stirring that was in his life had him to a place to where I'm not getting any peace. My life is a mess, and I don't know what's there. So we're looking at the king in that verse that, and whereas the king Saul, a watcher and holy one. Now, we're talking about a man, and normally he don't give a lot of thought to spiritual. So God has a way of reaching out. If you ain't thinking about God, you might want to give him some thought. If you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, if you just don't care, if you're too busy to worry about it, if you're looking for the best way to get what I can get, if there's something in it for me, I'm ready to listen to it. If not, let's forget it. The king looking at it, and he said, I saw, which tells me that God placed it, and he placed that vision, and he placed that dream in his life, and he moved him to a place, and he said, now this is a part that people might want to look at. It said it was coming down. Now, in that vision, it don't matter what we do or don't think about God or anything else, but coming down out of heaven. It's coming down from heaven, and and then he's saying, they're going to speak. But this is where Nebuchadnezzar's at. This is where he's got to. He's got to the place. Now, God has brought him into a place now on that inner man. And we're talking about the emotional and the side of rest of where he's at. And Nebuchadnezzar's at a place to where he can't get no peace, Paul. His life and what's going on in his life has got him stirred to the place to where he said, nah, I got to do something about this. I have got to do something about this. And God said, okay, this is where I'm going to step in, but I'm going to take a hold now, and I'm fixing to start moving this man where I want him to go because he's ready. He's primed and he's ready. And he began to move, and he put him into a place. Now, think about this. There, Nebuchadnezzar is all laid out. Life is doing good for him. He got everything he wants. Everything in the world is in his life, and he's doing great with it. Moving on, got everything happening to him. And he's laying there, and he's looking. He's like, I can't go to sleep. This mess is driving me crazy. I just want to get some rest. So now we've lost peace. We've lost rest. And what's coming next? Our physical health? Is that going to get to us next? Are we going to be caught up in that as well? That's kind of where he's at. And he said, no, I'm going to find out what's going on. You know, I'm going to say to the people in the world, if you're hearing this today, even in the church, you might want to stop and think, hey, if my life ain't what it should be and something's going wrong in my life and I got troubles, am I looking in the right place? I know there's a God, but I can't find him. Mother said, well, I doubt if there is God, and that's probably why I can't find him. So we look at those things, but that emotion that's in us and what's there, that's moving us into a place as human beings, as those that are there, we either love God, God is a part of our lives, which is, thank God I feel with everything in me that everything I've got, I ain't worthy of nothing. So what did God do? He said, you just keep on thinking that, son, and I'll bless you. But when you get to thinking you done it, you got a problem. And that's where Nebuchadnezzar was. He's in that place. But now he's searching, Paul. He's reached a place now to where he said, wait, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what. So God's got his attention now. Now, this is where we're fixing to see that watcher and that Holy One going to start talking. I think what this has done is it's got Nebuchadnezzar's attention, and he's thinking on it now.
So before we move into that, I'm going to ask you, when you see it, is the Holy One and the Watcher two different things?
Yes, they are. Absolutely are.
Okay.
And the Watcher can take on many things. We don't have time to get into the Enoch. I mean, Enoch's books is not in this Bible. We don't have time. But here's what I'm going to say. When you get into that Watcher part, you're going to get into that Holy One part. You're fixing to move into some books that's not in this Bible. But if you remember when Lucifer got tossed out of heaven, he carried about a third of the angels with him. Right. When we get around to demons, and this is just me, I could be proven wrong on this, and I hope somebody decides to get real bold and go out and find how to prove me wrong and do it. I pray they do. But I think those demons, I think we're going to find we do a little bit more checking and searching and looking and understanding through these scriptures. We're going to find that there was a creation before everything happened. And in the process of it, there was a people, and Lucifer was over them. He was the leader. This was his place. That world, that Eden that was there, that's where he was until such time as he decided, you know what, I like myself a whole lot better than I like God. So I think I'm just going to take my personality, and I believe I'm going to elevate it up above his, and I'm going to take his throne, slam away from him. And God throwed him out. And I'm going to tell you something. People laugh. They say, well, they left it out because Enoch ain't a part of it, and he didn't have for. Yes, here's what I say. All I know is that the 2 or 3 places in the Bible, Peter used it, Jude used it, Jesus used it. And the one thing that God said, that Jesus said with him, and I think it's over in Hebrews when it talked about the champions and the in the world and those faith people that were there, Abraham and all of them, it talked about God. Enoch was there and said God took him. Why did God take him? Said because he pleased him. So now, if Enoch pleased God, why would he be listed in Hebrews chapter 11 as one of the heroes? Why would he be there, one of those heroes of faith? And I'm going to let that go at that. But that watcher and that Holy One that's there, that's going to go back. If you ever decide you want to go look up some Enoch stuff and read it, go right ahead. Just remember, you're not going to do much with it unless you read it in conjunction with this Bible. There's another one out there called Jubilee. Right. Mm-hmm. You need to get it too if you can. And when you read them with the understanding, there's a lot of questions, starting probably with the 6th chapter of Genesis. When you get over that area with all of them big old giants and all of them folks around there and all of them angels doing what they're doing, you might want to think about this and give a thought to it and say, wait. But now I'm probably going to need to take this Bible, which is what the bulk of it is. And I will say that this Bible is what it is because this is what God ordained. This is given from the Word. But there are still other writings out there. And there's answers that we can find that are not necessarily in this Bible, but they're there to be found. That watcher and the Holy One come down from heaven. Now, the Holy One might have felt like he needed to watch the watcher so that the watcher would do what the watcher was supposed to do, and what God wanted said would get done. So we got a Holy One, we got a watcher, and they come together. But this is a thing when it comes to God, and God sends somebody to do something. Did you ever know? Paul, remember that time you said when he sent those apostles out, he sent them out in pairs of two?
Right.
Well, guess what? You got a pair of two.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that question this. We're here. I mean, what else are we supposed to do? Somebody's got to address it. Somebody has to answer it. So it was kind of one of those things I thought I'd ask and see what you
Well,
thought.
they might prove me wrong. I mean, I hope they do. I hope they get digging in and prove me wrong. But in the process, maybe they'll find the right.
So, well, I mean, here's what's interesting to me is, if you go and look up watcher, okay, and you pull this up, it's the Aramaic word means one who is awake, one who keeps watch. So that tells me that there is one that's watching everything that's occurring. God is watching everything that's occurring. Everything's being written down in books according to scripture. So there's one that's watching. So the watcher to me is best understood as an angelic being, is what I've wrote down, who his responsibility is to observe earthly affairs and carry out God's decrees. That's his duty. And then when you get to the Holy One, then, if you go look it up and you're trying to research it, there's two primary interpretations you get from that. And the most common is the watcher is a holy angel. That means a watcher, even a holy one, means a watcher who is one of God's holy angels. That's the interpretation that they come. So it's, as far as I can see, they conclude that to be as one deal. And then another one is there's two groups that are mentioned, and you have some that says it refers to a watcher and a holy one, meaning two heavenly beings. So what is and what is not? That is the question.
Yep. And what are we going to do with it?
I do believe that God is the one that's in control. God has many different variations. There are multiple angels. Okay. We call them angels. We give them one singular name with an S on the end of it to say there's more than one angel. But the truth is there are different types of angels. And that's where things kind of start getting a little haywire for folks, because we don't understand that. You've got the cherubim, the seraphim. You also have living creatures. You've got archangels. You've got angels who are just the messengers. So there's many numerous things that are in there, which brings us to a highlight or an important point, that all of this quote unquote disclosure stuff that's being given out from the government now, talking about the hybrid DNAs, talking about all of these different things, aliens, are there aliens or not aliens? Uncle Royce, the truth is angels are real. Demons are real. They manifest in the physical presence of people. The Bible tells us we may entertain angels unaware. Therefore, that means they become in physical form. We don't know what's there, but it also tells me that God still watches. He still knows. He's still documenting, and he's still putting things out there. So that's just the quick notes that I had made when I was looking up some stuff and we were studying into this. But to bring us back into Daniel here, where we're at, Daniel has repeated everything of mercy. The stump is now staying rooted in the ground. The tree's cut down, but the strongest truth in the chapter is that the stump remains. God's trying to say, I will humble those that need to be humbled, but I'm not finished with them yet. Church has a lot of pride in a lot of areas that we've allowed to come into existence because we've, again, all the technology, all the information, everything's so accessible. We've said we've got all the tools that we need. We have all the information we need. We can provide this out to the churches. We can do this. We can implement these programs. We can implement these things. And we've taken it and placed it into the hands of man. And we still say, oh, God's in control. God does this. Jesus still saves. That's true. But where's the actual evidence that things are being used and done by the Spirit versus the way we'll apply things in the physical? And God is calling a place of humbleness. The church has got to come back to the foundation that God sits on the throne and that we should have a fear of the Lord and the reverence of who he is. When his voice speaks, it's like thunder. When his hands clap, it's like lightning strikes. It's so loud and powerful. That's the kind of God that should be there that we think of when we think of God. God is still going to judge the whole world accordingly. He's given it over to Jesus. He will destroy this earth. One day it will be completely destroyed. Now, praise God, I believe and I'm saved and I know it. Yes, amen. I get to escape the destruction that's going to come at the end of days. I get to escape the tribulation. I get to escape all of these aspects, and if I don't escape and I have to go through the Antichrist, when Jesus calls, I'm going home. That's all I got to say on it. Pre-trib, mid-trib, late-trib, post-trib, I don't care. Jesus calls, I'm going home. But when it comes down to it, at the end of all of it, once we've got through the millennial reign, once Satan's been loosed again for a season, at the end of all of that, this world will be destroyed. And then we will have a new heaven and a new earth. Why? Because God is the final say. And we need to come to a realization again as a body of believers, as believers ourselves, and as a church collectively, that God is in control. There is judgment. There is correction. There is a cutting down. But there's mercy, there's hope, and there's preservation. And that's how God deals with pride when mercy still speaks.
And Paul, you know what really I think probably troubles me when it comes to our churches and our people today and what we've got and looking at is I don't think most people understand that those are ordained and decreed happenings that God has determined for his creation, his mankind. They don't understand that God married his created earth, his created kingdoms, his created animals, his created plant life, his creations all the way through, all the way up to man. And then he took them, that's actually the second creation that God brought in on the end, and had a shout pause. But then he placed them in his original creation, and he tied his creation to man when Adam and Eve fell. And we're sitting there. I don't think we know, even in the church today, nor do we understand that what we do and how we do it has an effect on every creation, physically, mentally, emotionally, any way that it is. We make decisions and choices, and what it does is it has its implied and its absolute effect on creation itself, all the way up to and including the earthquakes we have, everything that's there, and man will not do anything about it. The climate change, all this stuff that they talk about today, better understand God said, nope, the seasons ain't going nowhere. They'll be here until such time, as long as this world is here, that will be here. So these people that get all caught up in this stuff and talk about we've got to validate, we've got to do this and help God save the world. No, we don't. We just need to do what God told us to do, follow his commandments. And if we don't, and we're not in church, if we don't have that salvation, sad to say, people that if they don't care enough to find out is it true or not, they don't realize that every time they do what they do, they just fulfilled another prophecy that's in this book. And that's where we're at today. They have come to that place. That's where we're at right here. So we're looking at a place, and Nebuchadnezzar is looking at his life. And he's about to get a place here and what's there. But now I think we're fixing to see a reprieve coming in for Nebuchadnezzar and what's here. When we look at that stump, I think there's going to be a little change taking place. But I just think we need to know who we are, what we are, where we're going. If we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, if our lives are messed up and we don't know what to do about it, there's an answer. But we've got to turn around and say, I want to find it and I want it, and let it go with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we do. And then, here's the thing. God deals with us. He deals with pride when mercy still speaks. He's going to still deal with us. He's going to still deal with the areas of our life. He's still going to deal with the problems in the church. He's going to deal with those things. And he may cut down what we've trusted in, but he leaves enough to restore what can still be redeemed. That's what they say. People, you have to get to the very bottom of the barrel before people will come to Jesus. Why is that? It's because sometimes we have to it takes all the way down to the stump, to the very bare roots before he can restore and redeem us. And we need to understand this because sometimes correction feels like destruction in our life. And when God starts dealing with us, it may feel like loss. It may feel like some kind of rejection or like the end's here, but mercy, praise God, praise Jesus, mercy's still at work. And what we get to see is the stump says, this is not over. God's still dealing with you. There's still room to be humble yourself, and judgment is real, but restoration is still a possible thing. And Uncle Royce, we've talked about the stump before, but it keeps coming back. We keep coming back to the stump. Why is it so important that God did not say, pull up the roots and erase everything?
I always think about when that comes up about being attached to the vine. There's no life. I am the life, and you are the vine. You are the branches. You have to be, and you have to be attached to me, or you don't have that life. And that's kind of what I think about here when I look at that. Why is that? Why does it look that way? Why does it work that way? And he said, because I am the way, the truth, and the life. And if you won't have anything except in me. That foundation is me. I am that life. I'm where the life-giving source is, and that's where we get it. If you want to find it, even when we're in the valleys, we can find peace and rest when we do that, but we've got to stay attached to the vine. We cannot in any shape, form, or fashion think we can do it in ourselves. And those of us today that want to throw Israel away and say the Jewish people are junk, I'm going to support Palestine. All I'm going to tell you is you're fulfilling the Bible and the prophecies of the Bible just as fast as you can. Because what that means is you just turned your back on God's chosen people. And believe me, people, they're still his chosen people. There will be Jewish people that will be saved the same as there will be Gentiles, but they will be done and saved within their own choices and their own lives according to what they do or what they don't do. And if we don't allow that to move us and move us to a place and move us away from what we're believing and what we're doing now, there is not a Palestine. I hear all this, but I'm just going to say this right now. There is no nation of Palestine. These people that think the Jewish people, they're yesterday and that we're going to take their place in Palestine. No, Palestine, Iran, all of those people over there that everybody gets down on so much. I didn't know I was going to get political, but every one of those that they're down on so much, they're supporting, they're giving it all they got. I hope somebody hears this and reads on it, gets mad at it, and goes back and looks up the Bible to prove me wrong. But when you do, you're going to find out it's going to go all the way back into Genesis, and you're going to find out it goes all the way back to Abraham, and you've got that little old Jewish person that with the concubine had that young man and to the place where she run out, and God told him, said, that's not going to be your people. Abraham, that's not going to be your heir, will not be. I will see to it that they are blessed, that he's blessed, and they'll be a great nation. They'll be a great people. But don't ever think that they're going to be the ones that's going to take the place. So you go ahead and you support that side of it if you want to. But what the Bible says and what's in there, I'm just going to tell you heads up. It's been prophesied. You side with them, you're going to find your face sitting down there with the devil, and it's going to be hot.
Well, the biblical mercy sometimes means God corrects. He corrects us before our pride destroys us.
Judgment cometh, saith the Lord. The blessings and the curses.
So Daniel says the stump would be wet with dew of heaven, and his portion would be with the beasts of the field until 7 times pass him over. Now that, Uncle Royce, is complete reversal here. Nebuchadnezzar goes from palace and comfort to field and being in exposure. He's now going from his nice royal robes and clothing that he gets to wear, and he's having to go into the dew of heaven. He was no longer sitting over men. He was going to be coming to a place where he was going to be living among the beasts. Why? Why would that be? It goes back to the one thing. We've said it so many times. The root of all sin is pride. That's the root of it. And pride had made him live beneath what Nebuchadnezzar's created purpose was. And this is one of the deep things that we get, a truth that we get in Daniel chapter 4, is that pride does not make a person greater. Pride makes a person less whole, and it pulls us down. We think it's lifting us up and in doing something for us and picking our stature and placing us in a new area, but it does the opposite. It causes us to live by our desires, our appetites, instead of surrendering in worship to the one who's in charge. And it causes us to want to be in control again instead of in the surrender. It may cause us to see people as tools instead of image bearers. Well, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Don't get me started.
And sometimes it may cause us to forget that every breath is actually borrowed from God. So Nebuchadnezzar had exalted himself like he was above man, and God has humbled him. until he lived beneath me. That is not something that's accidental. The judgment fits what the sin created. And the 7 times shows us the season was an appointed season. So God sets the boundary. He's set the length, the purpose, the preservation, and there's all controlled by him. There's nothing in chaos there. This was heaven's decree.
The thing about it, what I find myself looking at and thinking about it, I don't know that people know this, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of history out here for somebody to think about. In case, man is a six. Well, if you think about it in Revelations, you're going to hear about a man that his name was 666. Now, people might wonder about, this Antichrist is something we wondered about an awful lot. But now when you think about 666, you're talking about the numbers of man 3 times. You're talking about the Trinity of God 3 times. God is 7. The perfect number of 7 is God. So you get 777. God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. Are you beginning to get a picture of what I'm talking about here now when we talk about that 7 seasons and that 7 years that's there? He had to move into a place of perfection and go through what he went through in order to get to this place. But when he got there, all of a sudden it said, I'm out there, all my hair's down, all the way down to my ankles just about it. My fingernails are so long I can't even scratch my nose without it going up my nose and busted my brain. And here I am, and all of a sudden he comes to himself and realizes, you know what? I ain't no animal. Says 7 years has come and perfection set in. So what we've seen now, and I'm going to say this. I can't help but say that. I've got to say this before we get to it. We're going to get into it next week probably. But what we've got when he started talking about they, those people, those haters and those enemies of Nebuchadnezzar, the minute that man lost his mind, I'm going to tell you back up there, 19th verse, the minute he lost his mind, Daniel told him, he said, I hope this is if they hear this, and people, your haters and your enemies. And evidently they must have heard it, because I just got a feeling that when he lost his mind, they said, we're going to help you out, son. We're going to help you way out. We're going to get you slam out of here, and we're going to take over. And you fix to be out there in the weeds. You're going to be down there in the dirt. He ain't as bad as a serpent, but Paul, he ain't far from him. He's pretty close. He ain't eating dirt just yet. But, well, he might be, come to think of it. I didn't talk about that, but he might be. But think of it, after 7 years, many things could have happened, but we're saying all at once, he come back. That perfection of God, that spiritual perfection that was there, that inner man, that part that was missing in him that got thrown out because of his pride. Now he realizes, you know what? I can't do anything without God. Look at what happened the minute I lost God. And we're that way today. We don't want to think about it. We in this world, we've got our lives, and don't bother me. Do not dare bother me with common sense. You just keep lying to me and make me feel good. And that's the way the world is today. The plain truth of the matter is, in the church today, we're so busy playing church that for all practical purposes, we might ought to get out there in the pasture and spend a little bit of time around some of the things that God had. We might learn to appreciate him. I kind of envy hunters and fishermen sometimes when it comes down to that, because they understand what nature is. You take people that go out in those woods and these forest rangers and all these people, I'm starting to understand them now. I'm beginning to get a picture, and I don't want to do either one. Don't misunderstand me. I got enough without that. But the point that I'm getting to, they have learned to appreciate what God has blessed us with. And that's where I'm going to stop right there. If you get to wanting something good, that's the place to go.
So in other words, what you're saying is, we need to become the sheep in the field so the shepherd can shepherd us.
There you go, man alive. You picked right up on it. I didn't think you'd ever get there.
Me. All right. Okay. So Nebuchadnezzar went from a palace to a pasture. He went from robes to the dew of heaven. He also has went from ruling over men to crawling among the beasts of the field. And Uncle Royce, that wasn't a random thing. That wasn't chaos. That was heaven fitting the judgment to the sin. And it was right down to the letter. Pride told that man he was above his own humanity. So God let him live below it, and out of the weeds, out of the wet grass, and he's going to do it until 7 full seasons had come and gone, and perfection had set back in. Church, I want you to hear this part close. That dew of heaven wasn't just punishment. That dew was still falling on him. God hadn't turned his back. Even out there in the field, even with that man out of his mind, mercy was still watering the stump. every single night. So if you're in the field season right now, if things have been stripped down, if you don't recognize your own life anymore, I want you to know the dew is still falling. God ain't left you out here to die. He's going to grow something back. So next week, we go out to that field with Nebuchadnezzar and we watch him come to himself. And I'm telling you, when that man lifts his eyes back to heaven, that's the moment this whole chapter's been building to. So let's say that's our goal, is to try to be there. But we'll see where we get to, actually. Now, if you're sitting there today and you feel like you're out of in the field yourself, you've been humbled, stripped down, wondering if God even remembers you, I want you to do something before you close this out. Don't just scroll on. Go outside if you can. Feel that air on you and ask the Lord, is there dew falling on me right now that I haven't even noticed? If you want to walk out to the field with us next week and watch Nebuchadnezzar come back to himself, hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you know someone out there that's in the field right now, and they're having to go through it, they're getting humbled, they're wondering if things are over for them, send this to them. Let them know that the stump's still in the ground. Like, share, subscribe to Paul Purifoy's YouTube channel here. Also on Rumble, you can check out Two Faithful Brews and the Good News.riverside.com to see all of our podcasts in one location, along with a newsletter that we're trying to get worked out for that as well. You can check out paulpurifoy.com. There are resources there for you. And if you subscribe, you can get the free book resource as well. It'll give you events that is going on also, along with being able to get to all of our podcasts that are available through the website there. Again, like, share, and subscribe to all of it. You can also find Two Faithful Brews and the Good News on your favorite podcast platform. So with that, we wish you all the best and God bless. And we'll see you next time on Two Faithful Brews and the Good News.